A lot of it is going to be determined by the age of the kids as to what is appropriate for them to have. If you can have a rule that you're not going to have a smartphone until whatever age you decide is the cutoff going to be till you make your confirmation or anything like that. The problem seems to be that parents are caving and giving kids technology way too soon. And then the kids just, you can't get them off it. So kids aren't going outside playing, they're spending all their time online. So particularly when it comes up to Christmas, the demand is always going to be there. Can I get the new PlayStation? Can I get the new iPhone? Can I get the whatever? Apart from anything else, there's a massive cost involved in this now because none of this stuff is cheap anymore. So really, parents kind of, if they can do it, is to try and redirect the kids to other types of gifts and presents. So board games, things that you'll do as a family. Now that's not always going to work. They're still going to want the latest tech. That because all of my friends have this, so I need a new Nintendo Switch, or I need all of these different things that are out there. So it's a very difficult path for parents to kind of tread. They don't want to deny their kids. They don't want the kids to be bullied because they don't have what the other kids have. But at the end of the day, it's going to be what's the healthiest choice for their kids.
And then when these things eventually, when they do get into the house, whether it be over Christmas or I suppose if you're saying at that kind of confirmation age or whatever, but we'll talk about it, I suppose, over Christmas, given the month that's in it, it brings about, I suppose, new challenges in terms that maybe wouldn't have been there when these consoles and stuff first came on the market, and that's kind of the wide range of internet access. And how would you go about limiting stuff like that for young kids especially?
So the problem with a lot of these things is that the kids have them in their bedrooms, and you don't know how long they're spending on them. And also the other part of this is parents trying to keep up with the technology, because parents aren't going to be au fait with online gaming and chat rooms and all this kind of stuff that their kids could be on. It is a very difficult problem. It's something that the schools are trying to help parents with. They're providing additional education services. They're providing courses that parents can do to learn about these things. You can learn about them online as well. There's lots of very good resources out there for parents. But it's a very difficult job to keep up with them because kids are clever and they are sneaky, and they will find ways around all the things you try to do. I mean, the most straightforward thing you can do is to say, right, we're going to turn the Wi-Fi off at a certain time. Or if you're able to set it up, have the kids on a separate Wi-Fi than the rest of the house so that you can put a timer on that. A lot of the providers help you with this. So Vodafone and Aircom have phone apps that you can get that tie into your broadband in the house, and you can set up um, separate Wi-Fi that can have a timer on it. So, okay, you can go on the internet, but only for 2 hours a night or an hour a night or whatever you decide is appropriate for your kids. Um, the main thing though is to have that they're not afraid to talk to you. That if there is something that's upsetting them or disturbing them that they've seen online, that they feel that they can come to you without the knee-jerk reaction being, "I'm taking it off you." Because if they feel that that's what's going to happen, they won't tell you anything that's going on. So you need to kind of have that initial conversation. Says, look, if you're going to be doing this and you're going to be playing these games, if you hear or see anything that upsets you or whatever, you come to us, you can talk to us. We're not going to take it off you. We'll go through this together. So that's really the thing, because obviously parents' initial reactions will be, oh my God, my kids are being bullied, da, 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 I'm going to take it all off them. And that just makes it far worse for the kids. And it also makes them far less likely to actually open up and tell you if there are any problems that they're having. So monitor their behavior. If you see changes in their behavior, again, as a parent, you know your kids best. You'll pick up on the fact that they've got very quiet, or they don't want to talk about things. But especially at the Christmas time when they're there all day, is to try and limit how long they can be on them. It's very hard to do when you'll have to listen to them whinging, but you kind of have to put a limit on it because it's just for their mental health that they're not spending all day every day playing computer games.
Yeah, and I suppose you mentioned that. I suppose that's kind of doing activities as a family, encouraging them, whether that be board games or something like that.
It is just to get them out of the room. I mean, it's very hard to do it, and unfortunately, a lot of parents, through no fault of their own, fall into the trap of just give him the iPad, he'll be fine. They keep him quiet, let him give him his thing. They don't want, the kids are giving out, and they're saying, look, the simplest thing to do is cave and hand it over to them. So you got to kind of be a bit of tough love, as they say, and say, look, you've been on that all day now. You need to take a break. Go outside and touch grass if the weather lets you do it. Try and do something with them. It is effort for the parents as well. So it's not all from the child's standpoint that we have to look at this. The parents have to be willing to put the time in to say, right, let's sit down, let's play a game, let's do something that doesn't involve screens. It is just so convenient to let the kids spend all their time online and away from you and not annoying you, and just gosh, fine, look, go play your PlayStation, go do whatever. And you don't have to worry about them. They're in a room off somewhere and they're grand until you hear a fight or screaming. But other than that, they're just off on their own and they're no hassle. But the downside to that is that you're not aware of what's going on. You don't know what's happening in there. And just for their own physical and mental health, you need to drag them out of the room periodically and try and find something to do. Simple things like there's little games you can get, like where you're fighting each other with a kind of a balloon guy and sword fighting, and you try to pop each other's balloons, obviously depending on the age of the kids. Um, and you talk to them about what they're playing and ask them questions about their games and stuff. Learn a bit more about what they're doing and kind of make that effort to engage with them.
Yeah, and I suppose you mentioned some advice if they are getting these kind of communications, whether it be in chat rooms or in kind of gaming lobbies as well. A lot of that can also come from social media. I suppose it's a lot of it is dependent on the age of the kids, but I suppose the younger they are, you stay away from it at all costs, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, you can't start too soon. Like a lot of the kids play Animal Crossing, which is little cute, cuddly animal games, and there's all sorts of issues and problems with the chat features in there. And the companies that provide them say they're doing their best to monitor and to block people and to do that. But until we get a kind of a global age registration system where somebody who says they're an 8-year-old from Ennis turns out to be a 48-year-old guy from Iran or whatever, like somewhere in a different country, China, whatever. Until it can be verified, that's really always going to be a loophole, because they think they're talking to somebody who's their age, and it's somebody who's grooming them, or all sorts of different issues that can arise. But it's difficult for the parents to do it, but they need to have some input into what's going on and sit there with them when they're playing the game and just watch what's coming up on the screen. I'm not saying every minute of every day, but sit with them for a few minutes when they're playing and just say, "Oh, what's that now? And what's this?" Just keep an eye on them. Hard to do at all times, but periodically at least check in with them, sit with them for a few minutes while they're playing, watch what's coming up on their screen, because that's the only way you can really tell what's going on.